Learn the most advanced recruiting techniques. Land the most desirable talent. Launch your company towards massive success. This is Hire Power with Rick Girard.
How do you attract talent to your company that has a crappy reputation? Well, we'll be uncovering some creative ways to overcome this challenge on today's show. My name is Rick Girard, and I thank you for tuning in to Hire Power Radio Show. The mission of our show is to give entrepreneurs solutions to their most difficult hiring problems. We are going to discuss proven techniques in effectively landing the most talented people to help your company grow successfully. Sitting with me today is our guest, Tom Chaparro. Tom is the Executive Vice President for the Newport Group, and they are a multi-industry executive search group focused on mid to senior level positions. Tom's also an expert on helping companies with this exact challenge and is here to share some of his wisdom with us today. Tom, I'm so glad to have you on the show today, particularly for this topic.
Well, thank you, Rick, and I'm honored to be your first talk show guest, and I will try to provide the audience with some credible information and some takeaways that they can implement in their hiring strategies. So
Excellent. And then, Tom, yes, you are our first guest, and we're really excited to have you. So let's just jump right into it. So you're hired at a new company, and as you dive headfirst in your recruiting efforts, you discover that no one's interested in your opportunity because of the company's reputation. Whether you like it or not, it's your responsibility to, as a recruiting professional, fix this issue before you take someone through the interview process. How do you go about discovering that the company has a bad reputation before you kind of engage with them?
Okay, that's a great question. And, in our company, we tend to be very well connected in our respective search spaces. We're not a generalist firm. We are a industry-specific or functional-specific company, and we group our recruiters in specific teams so that they can really get to know their market and what challenges already exist. And if we don't have firsthand knowledge, we know who to call to get real-time intel. Like I said, we're not generalists.
So because you are specialized, you pretty much know when you go into it what the reputation of the company is.
We typically have a pretty good idea of what we're getting into at the beginning.
Got it.
Okay.
Got it. Is there any other resources that you might use that might help you find some knowledge of maybe someone who's unknown?
Well, we like to first get real-time information from past employees. That's one of our best sources. And, our business is the knowledge business. We're in the business of knowing who's who, who's where, and who's why. So we're really, a lot of it comes from interviewing people personally. And we also use social media and other sources, Glass Ceiling, Facebook, other social media platforms as places to gather credible intel on an organization or an individual in an organization. Because let's remember, organizations are people. They're individuals.
Sure.
And reputation of organizations a lot of time is very specific to a specific individual.
Absolutely.
In an organization.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I'm glad you brought up Glassdoor because in a lot of industries, Glassdoor, well, in tech, which is where I work, Glassdoor is pretty much, it's used by a lot of companies. Do you find it within some of the other industries that is a good place to find this intel?
Well, I think it's used by individuals who are looking at companies. Let's think about this for a minute. If you're a company looking to hire, you have tremendous resources of which to vet out individuals. You do formal reference checks, background checks, criminal checks, credit checks, all of these things. But if you're an individual pursuing a new position, where do you get credible intel? And the reality is the decision to work for an organization, in my opinion, has just as much effect or more effect on the individual that's taking the job as it does on the company that's hiring the individual.
Oh, absolutely.
So, that's something that we see.
Now, what are the most common types of reputation issues that you've had to deal with?
Well, over the last 29 years in this industry, I've seen pretty much all of it. A lot of it is specific to the level of the position that we are placing. If we are placing a senior level executive into an organization, it's either personalities of other senior executives, the financial performance of the company, business-related situations are the most critical things.
Sure.
When we're talking about individual contributor, managerial, director, even VP level searches, we tend to see those reputation issues are workload issues, balance, work-life balance issues. Turnover is always a significant issue for anybody that's looking to join a company. So it kind of falls into two classes,
sure,
depending on the level of the placement.
Is work-life balance something that you find is being very important for a lot of people?
Particularly with the newer generation in the workforce, we're seeing it as a significant factor.
Okay.
Let me tell you a little story. Years ago, in the last, I focus, a lot of my time is spent in the production home building sector. Big publicly traded and privately owned production home building companies.
Sure.
Back in the mid-2000s, during the real run-up in the production home building business, I was working for one of the largest, if not the largest, publicly traded home builder in the country. And I was engaged to do division president, division vice president, and other key contributor roles for a number of divisions of theirs in the Western United States. Well, I was in the middle of several projects for them, and people were entertaining offers to come to work for them, and one of the senior executives made an appearance. One of the senior executives of my client made an appearance at a roundtable working lunch of peers. In this luncheon, he made it clear to peers of his, and these are individuals whose the people that we're talking to are working for these various people at this luncheon. We're targeting certain companies and moving them over to our client. He mentioned in the luncheon that if you ever wanted to see your kids play soccer, you probably should not come to work for this company.
Wow.
Yeah, needless to say, I had 3 or 4 major projects fall out at that point because of how this telegraphed back into the industry. And we were able to get others in the organization to get into damage control mode and really change the dialogue of this individual, and the other hiring managers needed to go out and actually address this head on in interviews with people.
So, what do you do when the person responsible for this is like in a leadership role? I mean, how do you help to mitigate this?
Well, get a new client. No, just kidding. It's a lot of times what we've found is, first of all, we try to break it down and understand what issues are coming up. And they're all unique. And then it's our job as a company's consultant to come up with a narrative, a reasonable narrative to explain or counter the issues or the perceptions that we're dealing with.
Sure. So you've gathered all this intel and you have an idea of who's responsible. How do you then approach the company? Who do you approach within the company?
That's going to depend. We tend to be very transparent and candid from the start. And we let companies know that we're going to be candid. If they're engaging us to do search work for them, they're expecting our candor. Okay?
Sure.
So, companies are rarely surprised of what we're telling them. They typically already know. Sure. They've already heard, and they appreciate the fact that we're going to be upfront and honest with them about it and work with them in creating a narrative. It's a partnership.
Sure.
I like companies that have challenges, personally.
Sure.
All right.
And that's so important. Would they be coming to you if they didn't have those challenges? Exactly.
If a company, if everybody wants to work for a certain company, They don't need me. My job is to, and the job of a good search consultant is to level the playing field for their client.
Yep.
And attract people that perhaps, or help create a positive perception and open the discussion with individuals that might not be receptive if they just saw an ad, a posting on the internet, or a casual conversation with somebody.
Got it. Now, do you typically, just looping back to this, do you typically go to the CEO of the company or the executive leadership and get their buy-in before you kind of start to work toward fixing the issue?
Absolutely. It depends. I mean, sometimes the issue is with the CEO or executive leadership. At that point, we will usually have a candid discussion, and they typically know what the issue is, what their perception is. And like I mentioned, we work on creating a reasonable narrative to deal with it.
Okay, got it. That opens up a whole big discussion as far as what do you do when the person responsible is the CEO? And when you do approach them, how do you get them to buy in, especially if maybe they're a particular type of, CEO who's got a bit of an ego? Well,
there's a way to handle an individual like that, and I'm not going to give away all of my trade secrets on this radio show. Okay. But there is a way to handle it, and one of the things that I've found to be very effective is being upfront and candid and brutally honest. If we can't work past this issue with the individual, it's probably not a problem that is solvable. So we taking that approach, and I've yet to have a client fire me for telling them what's going on. And Rick, the thing that I want to stress is it's not my opinion.
Sure.
I never make it a personal attack or my opinion. I'm using information that I've gathered, and I'm citing that information as the basis for having the discussion.
Sure.
So that tends to lessen the blow and make the information more palatable for the individual that we are talking about or speaking to.
We're talking with Tom Chaparro of the Newport Group, who's sharing some great insight with us, Tom. We're talking about how to recruit for a company with a bad reputation, and we just discussed uncovering the bad reputation and how to break it to the company. We need to take a quick break, but when we come back, we'll be fixing the problem within the company, and then, more importantly, convincing potential employees that the problem is fixed.
You're listening to Higher Power with Rick Girard, giving you access to recruiting techniques that will help you hire key talent to build your company towards real success. Rick is a recruiting executive and entrepreneur who's been successfully recruiting in the aggressive Silicon Valley technology landscape for the past 2 decades. After a very successful stint at Apogee, he founded Stride Search in 2012. Based on a lean efficiency model, Stride has uniquely positioned itself as a leader in retained search for the most critical talent hires within a small organization. Whether you're a startup executive or recruiting professional, by listening to Higher Power with Rick Girard, you will walk away with skills to help you attract and hire great talent. Now back to Higher Power with Rick Girard.
Welcome back, everyone. This is Higher Power Radio Show, and I'm your host, Rick Girard. Our guest today is the illustrious Tom Chaparro from the Newport Group. Now, before the break, we were discussing how to figure out what kind of crappy reputation a company might have and how to break it to the company. Now we're going to discuss kind of some ideas on how we go about fixing the company's reputation and create a plan to alleviate the pain point for potential hires. Now, before the break, Tom, you were mentioning something and actually you said something kind of key that, you like companies that have bad reputations. Why?
Well, I don't know if I like them per se, but actually I do like them. And the reason is self-serving. They need me, okay? And they need people like me, executive search consultants, and people that can help create a good story as a result of it. And a lot of times, companies that have suffered reputation damage, it's very repairable. But it requires somebody that has the skill and has the reputation in their particular industry, their field, to counter it. Somebody with credibility. And that's why particularly I like companies that are more challenging. Okay, it also gives individuals that are going to work for them and with them the opportunity to really make a difference at that organization. So, there's with problems come opportunities.
Sure.
So
now,
that's why.
Are you bringing in other pieces of the company to help you out with this reputation at all, or are you just centralizing it just toward the key individuals that are making the decisions?
That depends.
Yeah.
If we're talking about operational or financial issues within an organization, and those are the reputation pain points that we're dealing with, then we will work with their marketing and their internal, their internal financial group I've had several clients put together PowerPoint presentations for me to use with potential candidates, describing what has happened in the past, why they're in the position they're in, and what the corrective action that's been taken, and what positive effect it's having on the company. So absolutely, we use the company's resources. The company's resources are much more powerful than mine.
Sure.
Sure. If I'm saying it, it's one thing, but if the organization is saying it, or others, analysts, other industry experts, things of that nature, if we can get their support and their contribution to our cause, then we're in very, very good shape.
Okay.
And those are resources that we actively solicit for projects like this.
Sure.
Okay.
Now, what steps do you take in this process from discovery to actually after discovery to presenting the company? What steps do you take in mitigating a lot of the issues that may be out there already?
Well, Rick, what needs to happen and this is for our process, because we're looking to be effective communicators of our clients' mission, story, company, however you want to frame it. So a lot of it is addressed when we are signed on and we take on the case or the project.
Sure.
Okay. So when we are asked we're engaged on a particular search project, we will put together a roadmap of how we're going to go about executing this process, this project with the client, and we will sit down with the client and go over all of these things. And one of the things that we're going to address at that point is the narrative of the company, the
Sure.
issues that we've heard about, the problems that we know exist, and we partner with them to address those issues and come up with a reasonable, believable, authentic narrative, so that when we're out communicating with individuals, we can address it and address it beforehand versus having it come up at the very end of the deal cycle.
Makes sense.
Okay.
Absolutely. So once the problem is resolved and you've got a handle on it,
okay.
How then do you approach and engage potential hires?
Well, when we're talking to potential hires, we're letting them know that they may have heard some derogatory statements, or they may have concerns about the company's reputation, and we address them head on at the beginning of the process versus at the end of the process.
Sure.
So we try to get everything tabled. We try to be as transparent as we possibly can. We try to be as candid as we possibly can. And once again, we try not to state personal opinions, but we rather present real-time information that we've gathered. It's not a personal attack on anyone.
Sure.
It's not an attack on the organization. This is what we've heard. This is how the company has responded, and this is what we believe to be true. Go in with your eyes wide open, dot your I's, cross your T's, get your questions answered, and if it makes sense, let's move forward with the process.
Absolutely.
People appreciate that. I think one of the things that is key in the process is not trying to be cagey and slick, but being authentic. And if we don't know the answer to something, if a company doesn't know, if we don't know, we're going to do our best to gather the information in a timely fashion and provide what we know. Okay?
Sure, absolutely. Now, do you work this in conjunction with positioning what the candidate is wanting out of their career?
It depends.
Okay.
We're employer retained. So we are understanding what our client is looking to do, what the short, middle, and long-term objectives of the role are, and we're looking to match that up with the short, middle, and long-term objectives of the individuals that we're discussing it with.
Sure.
Okay? One of the things that we do to gather information is we do a lot of interviewing. I mentioned earlier, we love talking to previous employees or senior leaders of organizations. That gives us really, really valuable real-time information. Okay? Sure. We look at, we research articles. We use the web quite a bit, and we're looking for any information we can glean about an organization, about the people in the organization, about projects, about finances, anything that can help us give our client a competitive edge and help us overcome an issue.
Got it. Okay.
Remember, issues and reputation issues are unique to the individuals who are examining them. For some individuals, it's a deal breaker, things that they've heard. For other individuals, it's a challenge. It's something that they want. They want to be in an organization where there are some situations or there's some problems. It's very unique to the individual.
Yeah, one of the things that we actually do at our firm is we get a really good sense of what that person wants to gather out of their career,
right,
and how to translate it into what the company's offering.
Right.
So it's a good way of looking at it, too. We're retained the same way. But
right. And when we're working with the hiring managers of our clients, we're advising them as to what this individual is looking to accomplish. Mm-hmm. And we want to make sure that there's congruency there. Okay?
Oh, absolutely.
If they're mutually exclusive goals, we don't even want to put the person into the process.
Sure.
So we're looking for 8 out of 10 deal points to align, and that's the basis of a very good discussion and a very effective long-term hire.
Now, have you had a situation where you've had a candidate that was pretty adamant about the fact that they weren't interested in the company, and after you've had discussions with them, you've been able to not convince them, so to speak, but at least change their mind a little bit to being open to at least talking to them?
That's one of our trademarks of our firm. I call it the ethical influence is the term I would use. And yes, we have been very successful in bringing people to the table that had very negative things they had heard very negative things to say. For instance, in that situation that I talked about earlier, we were able to turn that around with 2 of the 4 projects that we were working on at that point. We were able to turn 2 of those into finalized hires.
That's
okay.
Great work.
So if we can hit 50% on a situation like that, I think we're doing pretty well. And those individuals went on to have actually, one of them is still with the organization as their regional chief financial officer of the company. So,
okay. Well, we're just about out of time for today's show. Tom, thanks for sharing all this information with us. I'm sure there are quite a few listeners out there who are desperately in need of your service. What is the best way for them to get in touch with you? The
best way to reach me is either via telephone. I'm an old school guy. I still use the telephone. That number is 760-944-8255. 0285. That's my direct dial at my office in Laguna Hills. You can also reach me on the web at Tom, T-O-M, at NewportSearch.com. One word, NewportSearch.com. You can visit us on the web at www.newportsearch.com. And thank you for having me on the show today, Rick.
Absolutely. And I want to thank you, Tom Chaparro, for taking the time out of your busy day to share such detailed and creative ideas with us today. Thanks for turning down, everybody. And a quick shout out to our engineer, Paul Roberts, our producers, Joan Park and Shanti Ryle, and our executive producer, Kim Iverson. Do tune in next week as we aim to have another great show for you. I'm Rick Girard, and this was Higher Power Radio Show.
Thank
Aloha.
you for listening to Higher Power with Rick Girard on OC Talk Radio.